Okay, so let's talk about what the big idea sprint look like. So in this video, my goal, my intention is just to take you through the process that I use with my clients as we find our way towards uncovering their big idea. So I have a few slides to show you, and I don't plan to make this video too long. But just one sort of a disclaimer, maybe, or a footnote is that while this is the process can change depending on the client. Someone might need someone, for example, might need some help in the first step. Someone else might need to spend a lot of time on the last step, and so there is always that sort of variable component involved here. So while this is a good step-by-step process, just know that there can always be 10, 20, 30% deviation where we go a little bit towards different directions because one size doesn't really fit all. Okay, so let's move on. So whenever we start the engagement, the first step that happens is just setting up some business context, because I want to know what is happening with you. I want to know what is happening with your business. I want to know the number of clients you're working with. I want to know what the revenue goals look like, because then accordingly we can plan the strategy. For example, few of my clients lately have wanted to go away from hands-on implementation work to more of brain work or strategy work. So we sort of orient our work around that, right? Someone else might need more implementation work but more high ticket. So we sort of align the whole big idea thing depending on that specific context. So I need to know the business context, and then of course there is content analysis. So I genuinely believe that my job is not really to tell you what your big idea is. My job is to help you uncover it like an archaeologist, because it's already there. You know, it cannot be my idea, it has to be your idea. My job is just to help you see through the clutter. And so all the content that you have done so far is already hiding it somewhere. So my job is to uncover it. So I use AI to of course, there's also manual intervention, because sometimes AI cannot replace manual intervention. But after the manual intervention, there is also the AI component, because I do like to find patterns in what I'm seeing. So this is, you can think of like a warm-up exercise just to set up some kind of a foundation. Okay, the step two is a specific client stories, which is, I think, one of the more impactful or important steps. Because in step one, yes, I might ask you questions like, okay, who do you help and what problems do you solve? And we might have like a generic view about our business, but when it comes to getting into specific client stories, that's when the real magic comes out, because it's we can no longer hide behind generality, right? We have to be specific. And so when we get into specific client transformations, and again, they don't have to be huge transformations, even small wins that you have helped your clients with, we focus on that, because that becomes again like a foundation to our work in the future. So as you can see, like, the big idea, we will get into your frustrations, we'll get into your point of view and what your vision is, but it has got to have some footing. It has got to have some sort of connection with reality and data. It cannot just be something that is in your mind. So when we talk about the business context, when we talk about specific client stories, that keeps emerging, that okay, this is not something that is only in my head or my client's head. It's also being executed in some capacity, some manner in their client stories. So it's both, right? Step number one and two is more about data. The remaining steps are more about your vision, which we'll now get into. So step three is the free writing exercise. Now here what happens is that, okay, now that we have done the groundwork, now I threw a few questions at you, and those questions are basically to extract your frustrations, right? I mean, your curiosity, what makes you angry, what you're curious about, because a big idea is not just a copywriting gimmick. It's not something that you do just to look good. It has got to be something that you truly believe in. It has got to be something authentic. It has got to be a real frustration, because if it is a fake, if it is something that you're just doing for the sake of, then you can't sustain it for long. And I think all the great thought leaders and experts that we admire are a living case study, or are proof of that they go into direction which they find curious to explore. So the free writing exercise is basically a short exercise where I give you a few questions, and you're supposed to answer those questions asynchronously, of course. And there is like a time limit for all of the questions. And the only rule is that you cannot edit, you cannot correct your typos, you cannot use the backspace key. This is not your marketing material. This is just to dig deeper into your mind, so to speak. It's like peeling an onion. You keep on going into the deeper layers of the onion to find what truly you want to say. What message do you really care about? What is the one thing that frustrates you and that you want to change in the small pocket of your world. So uh, that's what the free writing exercise does. There's something magical about writing without stopping. Something emerges, some creativity comes out. I don't know what exactly happens, I don't know the science, but I know it works. And then now that we have all the raw material, so we have client stories, we have the narrative, or we have the output of the free writing exercise. We now come to the big idea course. But before I jump into the big idea course, just like I forgot to mention one thing, that after every intervention, right? I mean, for example, after step one, I look at what you're trying to do, and then maybe I have a few follow-up questions on that. I try to dig deeper. So every step is like a tennis ball, so it's like a tennis match rather. It's not that you're doing all of this in silo, like after every. In fact, I don't give you all the exercises at once. It is about, like, we do step one, then I have my comments on that. Maybe I ask you to elaborate on something. Maybe I ask you another follow-up question. Maybe if I feel this is too bizarre, I set up a call, right? That's why I feel it's also customized depending on your context and the outcomes of these exercises. Again, same happens for step two. And especially for step three, this is where we start getting into the meat, and I do my own thinking. I use AI to use all of and I use all the content that you have created, and try to make sense out of that, and I read that back to you, and I take your feedback on that. So yeah, it's a lot of tennis match experience that you will have. And once all of that is done, I was talking about the big idea course. The big idea course is again a fancy name for a course. It's just 6 videos of less than 10 minutes each. And now this is where the whole narrative comes together. At this particular step, you find your one villain, the one thing that you want to attack each and every day, so that your brand becomes cohesive, so that your messaging becomes cohesive, so that you're not talking about random things all the time, so that you can differentiate yourself authentically, right? I mean, if you stand for one thing, you organically, automatically, authentically differentiate yourself. So you find the first version of your villain, you find the first version of your big idea, and your whole narrative comes together. Because you cannot just throw your big idea, you have to meet people where they are, and then slowly take them where they are to your big idea. So remember the client story exercise that we did, that is to uncover the first step, that okay, what is their problem? Okay, so then we go from the problem towards the big idea. And so this is where the whole narrative comes together. In fact, after this, what we do is that step five is we take all of that and we build a manifesto from it. And you can use the word manifesto, you can use the word marketing message, or you can use the word narrative, whatever feels right, because they're used very loosely and interchangeably. But that becomes like your one document, your manifesto, which you can use anywhere. That is the overall document which carries your message. So your website is influenced by it, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, or your emails, your sales deck, all align around that particular message. So we pick the big idea and we build a manifesto. And one of the fears sometimes here is that, okay, is my big idea this or is it that? And then we just have to test it out, right? I mean, we cannot just sit back and wait for the right idea to come. We have to pick something, do some work, iterate on it, try it on for size, and then come back. So it's like building a software. And then, of course, when all of this is ready, there is also a chance to continue your work together. But if you want to implement this by yourself, that's also fine. So that's where the next steps of the content approach comes into the picture. So while it's not possible for me to create the entire content strategy that suits your context, but I definitely give you some things to get started with, or some initial content ideas that you might explore, so that you're able to now start building your IP. You can start building your templates, you can start building your framework. So you have a direction to explore, which can become the raw material for all this proprietary content or frameworks that you want to build. And just a side note that I do use AI to find patterns and to think AI is my thinking partner. Because like I said, I do think about this. I mean, whatever assignment you create, I need to think about it. I need to make sense of it to give you the best input. So I use AI, specifically Claude. And as far as communication is concerned, I do mention 2 to 3 calls. This is again like, I'm not yet at a stage where I'm very hard and fast about it, because we do whatever is needed, right? I mean, we do as many calls as needed, but typically I've observed that within 3 calls, so we are able to wrap up the whole thing. uh, but a lot of asynchronous communication happens, which is what I've found to be beneficial, because whenever you are stuck, you can just hit me up on WhatsApp, on Signal. Some of my clients are on WhatsApp, some are on Signal, some are on email, some are on Slack. So that doesn't matter, that the channel doesn't matter, but we are constantly throwing ideas at each other, and we are giving each other feedback. And so that is how the communication looks like. Usually you get a response within 24, max 48 hours. The overall timeline for this is 4 to 6 weeks. In some cases, I do extend this because I want to be flexible to my clients. Things might happen, something might come up. But yeah, tentative timeline to do this is 4 to 6 weeks. And I should add that the overall time investment, excluding the calls, would, let's say, be 10 hours or 12 hours, depending on your speed, but not really more than that. All right. I hope this helps. Thanks.